Good morning, students. This particular lecture is specially meant for BA Part 1 English Literature students, and I'm dealing with your first paper. And today we shall be discussing On His Blindness, a poem, that is a sonnet written by John Milton. Now, see, students, this is a Petrarchan sonnet, and it was written in 1673 by John Milton. Generally, the sonnets, the theme of the sonnets, it's mainly they are written on romance, love. But this particular sonnet, you can call it a religious sonnet, or it's about the relationship of the poet with God. This sonnet was written way back in 1673 by Puritan poet John Milton. Now, John Milton, at a very young age, at the age of near around 36, he became blind. So, because he's a poet, so see the title of the poem. Title of the poem is On His Blindness. So, for a poet, vision and his eyesight, that is carrying a lot of importance. So, how he becomes blind and what is the effect of blindness on his career, how does he react to it, how does he wants to strengthen himself. In this particular sonnet of 14 lines, he is not only telling us about his blindness, but in a way you will find, when he is praying, he's discussing about his vision. But this vision, he talks about light. This light especially is having a connotation, and it denotes many things, because it denotes the spiritual light, because he's a poet. He is having problem with his eyes. So naturally, for a poet, the eyes which observe, so which is so important for a poet. Okay, so to do analysis, to observe, day to day experience. So he's having a lot of problem, but because he's having, he has to have that experience, so he has to have that vision. He wants some spiritual guidance, because he knows now my light cannot be restored back, but he wants his knowledge to be restored back, his spiritual knowledge. So there are many connotations in the poem. Now, it's a sonnet, I told you, and it's 16 sonnet, and the sonnet, it's a Petrarchan sonnet. Okay, and the first 8 lines are octave, and remaining 6 lines are sestet. And in the first 8 lines, he tells us about his problem, about his difficulty, how he has become blind. But remaining 6 lines, when the problem is being introduced, and in the remaining 6 lines, he comes to the conclusion, to the solution to his problem. So that is what. So he talks about the disturbing effect which this particular blindness is having on his career. Okay, but the poem is very rich in figures of speech. Okay, and the rhyme of the poem is ABBA, ABBA. Okay, and I'll just read out the poem for you. When I consider how my light is spent before half my days in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is dead to hide, lodge with me useless, though my soul more bent to serve there with my Maker and present my true account, lest he returning chide, does God exact day labor light deny? So this is his question. I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. So here you see, patience is being personified. Patience to prevent, that murmur soon replies, God does not need either man's work or his own gifts, who best bear his mild yoke. They serve him best. His state is kingly, thousands at his bidding speed, and posterior land and ocean without rest, they also serve, who only stand and wait. Okay, So uh, here what you have to, because see, John Milton, he worked for English Republic, he was a poet, he was a writer. So late nights he had to do a lot of study. So that is why, his mother also had it. This poem is sort of an autobiographical poem, because he is presenting his condition. He is talking about what are the problems he confronted when he became blind. So he's talking about the disturbing effect, which blindness on his career. Okay. So now see the first line. When I, first person of the poet Milton, when I consider how my light is spent. That means when I consider, here light, is having, it denotes many things, many denotations. That means light is your eyesight, but light also means the light of knowledge. Being a writer, what is his moral duty? So he says, before I was blind, I did my duty well. When I consider how my light is spent, before half my days in this dark world and white. So he is also contrasting. Today he is blind, and when earlier he was not blind. So at that time he could do his duty very well. Okay. But now, because the whole world seems to him very dark, so he finds it very difficult to perform his duty as a writer. So the whole world seems to be very white to him. It seems to be very difficult as a writer. And that one talent which is death to hide. Now see, one talent is the writing talent of the writer, because everything else, he can bear, but one talent, that is the knack of writing, he cannot hide it. It is like death to him. So when he is blind, so it is like a death to him, that also. But the talent is lodged with me useless. Yes, I want to write, but see, I am having difficulty. How can I write without my eyesight? Though my soul, my inclination, though my soul more bent to serve there with my maker, M capital. So it stands for Lord, God. So I want to serve, because all the people on this earth, okay, Almighty has made human beings to be the super beings, who can talk, who can analyze, okay, who can think, okay. So they are better than, means in many ways. They can have their own language, they can have their own interpretations, okay, so own experiences. So they are at much higher level. So he says, so God has given me a duty as a writer to perform my duty for my country, okay, for my people, okay. So, but today I cannot perform my duty as a writer. I cannot write, being blind. So, what he says, so I want to present my true account to God, that because of my blindness I cannot perform my duty. So, lest he returning chide. He himself says, otherwise, lest he may chide me. He may scold me that you are not doing your duty. So, but then he himself puts up a question. In direct speech is there. Does God exact day labor light denied? Now, this is something very remarkable. Okay? Suppose there are two people, A and B. A is also working and B is also working. So maybe they are working in some institution. So output of A is much better than B. In a day, he can, suppose he is a doctor, in a day he has seen 50 patients and B has seen 25 patients. Okay, but both are performing their duties. But then what happens? Suddenly, B, who was seeing 25 patients only, suddenly he falls ill or he is having some problem and he is not able to perform his duty. So that does not mean that God is going to scold him, because at that time also he is bearing his yoke of duty, because certainly he's strengthening himself, and tomorrow he's going to do his duty. So God is not going to chide you, he's not going to scold you, because God has given you everything. So here he says, I want to present my true account to Lord, otherwise he may chide me. Does God exact day labor light deny? I fondly ask, but patience. Now see here, patience is being personified. So my patience prevents me, it stops me. That murmur soon replies. So gradually the answer is coming. God does not need either man's work or his own gifts, because God only has given you everything. He does not need anything provided by you. Okay? So, who best bear his mild yoke? If you are doing your duty, so if Milton is having this in mind, that I am not doing my duty because of my problem, and certainly he is strengthening himself that tomorrow I am having not the, because his eyesight is not going to be restored, but he will have inner light. So light of knowledge, so that he may strengthen himself to give something to humanity. And you should know that after becoming blind only, Milton had written two great epics, Paradise Lost and Paradise Regained. Okay, so who bear his mild yoke, they serve him best. So metaphorical language is being used. So his state, H capital, his state means God's state, God's kingdom, is kingly, means he is an emperor. Thousands at his bidding speed, thousands of messengers are working for him. So he does not require anything from you, because he has given you everything. And posterior land and ocean without rest, he indicates that there is a place where so many people are there, so they also serve. See the last line, that is very remarkable. They also serve who only stand and wait. Today Milton is just standing and waiting, waiting that God will bless him. He will be ignited. Okay, some spiritual light will be there, and he'll start performing his duty. So naturally, the answer comes to him that he is not wasting his time, rather he is doing something very important. Okay, so here I come to an end to this lecture, students. Thank you for your patience. Thank you so much.